Hello, everyone, and thank you for another episode with Empower with Nancy. And I'm super excited today because this conversation I'm going to be sitting down with an incredible Kathleen Cameron, a mom, a CEO, and manifestation mentor who has helped thousands of people build wealth from the inside out and identify work from the universal law. So
Mm.
she is an 8-figure entrepreneur, an international best-selling author, the creator of Diamond Academy. And what I love about you, Kathleen, is that you don't just teach strategy, you teach identity. You help people become the person who naturally attracts the life and business that they desire. And that is why today's conversation matters so much for our listeners right now, because today we're going to talk about what it really takes to stop chasing success and start embodying it. So, welcome, Kathleen, to my show.
Oh, I love that. I love what you said, that last line, to start to
Yeah.
embody it. Yeah,
Yes.
fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, gosh, embodiment is it. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the things I want to start for people that I know everyone knows you, but for my listeners that do not, can you tell us a little bit about the first time that you started into this business and where you were at to where you're at right now?
sure. Yeah.
I know.
Um, I was a registered nurse for 12 years. So I went to university, got multiple degrees, then I got a master's degree and just certification upon certification and moved myself up the healthcare administration ladder. So I was a bedside nurse, charge nurse, manager, director. Anyway, moved my way up. And so, like, the art of achievement or like being
Mhm.
a very driven woman and having ambition was always part of my life. But I did it in a way that was very like hardworking. The more certifications, the more time I spent, the more hours on the laptop, the better I would
Mhm.
feel and the more productive I would feel. And so this feeling of success came from my productivity. And when in 2019, when I actually decided to let go of my nursing career, that was the first time that I decided, okay, I'm going to do something completely different and be an entrepreneur. And of
Mhm.
course, when you choose a new path in your life, the teacher always appears. And so that's when Bob Proctor came into my life in 2019. I took one of his courses. I'd never heard of him before and decided
Mhm.
to take one of his courses. And once I started to understand universal law, and I started to understand the power of the mind and identity, but also when I found my spiritual essence and realized that I am much more than this human body, that's where this awakening occurred that allowed me to move into entrepreneurship in such a magical and powerful way. And so through like the refinement of the identity, the elevation and ascension of my spirituality, I was able to connect to my true power. So when I launched my coaching business in January of 2020, I didn't start off small. I started off with a big vision and radical self-belief, and
Mhm.
it manifested beautifully. I made my first $1 million in 7 months, and that year, first year of business, 3.3 million, and it's only continued since there, obviously.
Right.
Um, but to go from a registered nurse making $37 an hour to a multimillionaire so quickly, it involved certain changes within myself, and those
Right.
are the same changes that I now help other people to make so that they can have their quantum leap, their story, whatever that
Mhm.
is for them.
Right, right. And, for my listeners, I've taken Kathleen Cameron's Millionaire program and it was absolutely phenomenal. And that is where I connected with Tanya. I connected
Mm.
even with some of the people that have been on my podcast from your team. And
Oh.
it's just, I don't know what it is, just have this connection. And then when I first met you, I was like, I, I'm like resonating with Kathleen. Like it felt like you were in my mind. Like you were like,
Mm.
I'm like, how does she know what I'm thinking? Right.
Mm.
And that's where a lot of people, even like in my coaching, is like, how do you know? It just becomes so natural for us as coaches, but you have to believe, right? And if you don't believe, how can you teach? So I
Yeah.
remember one thing. Can you share with my listeners? Remember when you took Bob Proctor's course, and then you were sitting in a round table, and it was the gold card. Can you share a
Mm.
little bit about what you put on the gold card, saying this is how much I'm going to be making and where I'm going to be at. And everyone's like, are you freaking crazy, Kathleen?
Yeah. Yeah. It was really beautiful. We were at a mastermind, and we were sitting around a table, and all of us were Bob's students, but we were also like coaches having our own business alongside him. And what was so beautiful is that he was very, very good at getting people to really like kind of declare or decree, like, what is it
Mhm.
that you desire? What is that next level of you? And what is the financial measurement of that? So it wasn't about the money per se, but the money became the measuring tool, which would tell you whether or not you grew or not. You know, he would say, if your bank account's not growing, then you're not embodying this work. And so
Mhm.
he always wanted us to really have those measurements. And so I remember sitting around and everybody was going and reading their goal off their goal card. And it
Mhm.
was like 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month, 250,000 a month. And I think most people were around the 50 to 100 was
Mhm.
the goal that they wanted to achieve. And I was already doing that with ease every month.
Mhm.
And my goal on my goal card was 1 million a month. And so I sat there and I'm like, oh, like my goal is 1 million a month, 12 million in the year. And this was in 2020. And
Mhm.
I remember in that moment listening to what everybody was saying and feeling like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. Like my number is like 10 times as high as
Mhm.
most of these people sitting in the room. And I'm like, so I felt myself wanting to contract and to say a lower number so that I would kind of like feel like I fit in a little bit more. And so I wouldn't be such an
Right.
outlier.
Mhm.
But I went, you know what? I'm just going to say it. And I'm going to say it with like absolute certainty. And
It's
I know it's
done.
done. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, 1 million a month, 12 million a year. And they just all kind of looked at me like, okay.
You
But
crazy?
then, yeah. And then one of the mastermind members came up to me after and she said to me, man, that was really brave of you to say that, because she's like, most people would have just said a smaller number. She's like, so the fact that you said that big number and you said it out loud, she's like, that was very brave of you. And I was like, yeah, I felt it. I felt myself wanting to shrink a bit. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then just looking back on it, I did do 12 million that following year. I had my first
Wow.
$1 million month probably 4 months later.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's congratulations. And you just keep growing and growing and growing and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So, before this success, before Diamond Academy, what was your relationship with money and your self-worth?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because I I I would have never believed that there was a connection between those two things you just said,
Mhm.
self-worth and
Mhm.
money. Um, but now I see just how beautiful that connection is. But we can go into that. But my relationship with money was very interesting because I was somebody who I wouldn't say that I was poor by any means. So I lived in a really beautiful house with my parents, and I bought my own first car when I was just getting out of university, and I paid for part of my university. My parents paid for the other part. I got my first job when I was 14 years old, and so I wanted to have my own money and stuff like that. Um, I didn't have like excessive luxuries, but
Mhm.
I wasn't someone that was struggling. Like parents, were very driven and very motivated. They both worked full time. So we had access to things for sure.
Mhm.
And we had a good life, but it was kind of that normal standard type of life. And then when I got out of university, my goal and my vision was to get a job, make $100,000 a year, have a pension and benefits. And
Mhm.
so that's what I created. I essentially built that. And that felt really great. I felt successful. I felt like, okay, I did what I said I was going to do. Um, and then just in terms of like financial, um, I never felt the feeling of overflow. I always felt like I just had enough, just enough to pay all of my bills. We never had any extra money. We
Mhm.
had enough to kind of live through our life. And I remember Chris and I, we were going to do this trip down the PCH, which is so interesting because that's where I like live
That's
now.
where you're at now. Yeah.
Yeah, but we were gonna do this drive down the PCH, and we canceled the trip because we couldn't afford it. And I remember
Mhm.
when he bought me, he used to work for Winners and Home Sense, which is kind of like a Marshall's TJ Maxx for people in the US. And it's like discounted type of stuff. And anyway, he bought me this discounted Fendi purse. He spent $400 on it. To get a Fendi purse for $400 now, like you'd never get that. But anyway,
No,
but
heck no.
but back then
But
it
by the
was
way,
this
I love TJ Maxx.
Yeah, well, that's what
I
Carly used to do.
do.
We used to
Hey,
work there.
it's
But
funny.
yeah, yeah, but he brought me this Fendi purse, and I use this example just to show people how different my mindset is and my thinking is now, right? He brought me this purse, and I was like, why on earth would you buy me a $400 purse when I could have one for 50 bucks? Take it
Yes.
back. And I made him
Uh-huh.
return it, right? And even like going out to buy clothes would feel tight. Like I would, I would buy a few items, and if the price was over $200, I would give an item back. So something that I wanted, I'd be like,
Mhm.
well, no, I can't afford that, so take it back. Even like things like I was spending too much at Starbucks, so I ended up going and buying a coffee maker to make my own coffee at home to save money so that I
Mhm.
didn't go to Starbucks anymore. These are all like little ways that
Right.
the my relationship with money was evident, even like
Mhm.
saving up to spend money on our basement renovation, waiting to have all the money there, and then talking to a real estate agent and saying, okay, is it going to increase the value of our house? I'm not going to renovate my basement unless I
Mhm.
know it's going to improve the sale of my home. It's like not because I want to live in a renovated basement and
Correct.
like
Mhm.
that's comfortable, but because I'll get my
Mhm.
money back. And so I always had to have a reason or a rationale to spend money, and never really had overflow. So that's kind of where I was financially, and not really having any. We had a lot of debt too. Our cars were in. We were in debt with our cars. We were in debt with the house. Um, but in terms of worthiness, I'll go to that other side. This one is much more clear. The woman that I was did not believe she was
Mhm.
worthy of much, that's for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think back to that time in my life, I really did not like myself at all. I was very, very self-conscious. I was very, very aware of my physical body and how it looked and how it wasn't like everybody else, and how I didn't think that it was beautiful. I didn't think it measured up. And so that made me feel like I wasn't enough. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't worthy and valuable. I hid myself a lot, of course, behind the extra weight that I carried, but I also hid myself sitting in the back of the classroom, not raising my hand in
Mhm.
meetings, and just not being visible. I did this, Nancy, this is such a beautiful example. I did this, somebody did this recent trend on Instagram where it was like 2016 trend. Go back
Yes.
to 2016 and post all the pictures of 2016 and how your life was then. Well, I
Mhm.
went back to 2016 and there was no pictures of me at all. And if there was pictures of me, it was selfies of me with my daughters. My entire camera roll was my kids and nothing else.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
like if you look at my camera roll today, like I am so proud of myself. I am so proud of my life. I am
You
so proud
need
of the
to
woman that I
be.
am. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yes,
it's,
because you
yeah.
worked
And
so hard though. You really did.
yeah. Well,
You really
the
did.
biggest thing is I've spent a lot of focused attention on fueling my own heart and fueling my own vessel and really, really loving myself and really, really proving to myself every single day how much I love myself unconditionally. And
Mhm.
I keep giving
Mhm.
myself that love, but nobody ever taught me how to do that as a girl. And so,
Right.
the worthiness of who I believed I was in my life and my worthiness of being and existing and serving and making a difference was substantially lower. And so was my relationship with money.
Mhm. Mhm.
No coincidences.
Why do you think it's so important to be in that state of mind when you want to be able to manifest things into your life? Because we'll talk about the manifestation piece after, but why do you think it's so important?
Well, the thing of it is like it's understanding twofold. The the entire reason that we are here is to experience ourselves. So our soul
Mhm.
came to this human iteration to experience the fullness of itself, and it experienced the fullness of itself through humanity. And so the way in which we experience that fullness is to experience all the great things that life has to offer. Right. So
Mhm.
that's why we
Absolutely.
have this desire for more. This is why we want for something. This is why we are driven and motivated and ambitious. And this is why when we don't move towards that fuller expression, why
Mhm.
we actually disintegrate and we don't like it. So the
Mhm.
times in my life where I feel the worst are the times that I feel like I'm not going anywhere. I feel stuck, I'm
Mhm.
not moving, right? So everybody
Right.
listening to this knows when you feel like you're not growing at all, you feel stuck and you don't feel good, because the
Right.
truth is we're meant to evolve, we're meant to adapt, we're meant to
Yep.
change and to grow. And so that means it's up to us then to try to experience life in the best possible way as much as we can, and just let life, like, live your life, like, out loud
Yes.
and proud. And so to manifest then is the experience of understanding how to do that and how to
Mhm.
become a better version of yourself every day so that your outside world reflects that. So the happier
Mhm.
that you become internally, the happier you perceive your life to be, and then the better your human experience is, right? And so the more you allow yourself to tap into the feeling of abundance within yourself, the more abundant you will perceive your life to be, which then calls in more abundance. So, truly, to manifest means to make plain or to make visible that which you desire. And we do
Mhm.
that with light. We don't do that
Mhm.
through dark. We do that through light. Everything
Through
made
life.
manifest is
Mhm.
made manifest by light. And that light
Mhm.
is your spiritual essence within. And so, if we understand that connection, then the more that you tap
Right.
into your spiritual essence, you allowed it to be true and to be real and to experience itself, the more you will manifest in your life.
The key component to that though too is you have to believe, right? And not focus on oh, the fear, the worry, the outcome. How's this going to happen? How am I going to get that, you know, dream car that I want and that house or that job or whatever it is? You focus on that outcome. And when we focus on that outcome, it stops us in our tracks, right? So
Yeah.
can you kind of
Well,
talk a little bit about that?
yeah, and I think the word believe is really powerful. Um, to believe in something, it's like, okay, well, what are we exactly believing in? Like, what is it that we
Mm-hmm.
want? What is the belief that we want to hold, and what would be the best belief to serve us? And so, this is where self-awareness in this process is the magic to it all. Because if you're unaware, then you don't even know what to believe in. You don't know what you currently believe. So I always
Right.
say, radical self-belief. Yes, you must believe in yourself. You must believe that you are worthy of it, that it's possible for you, that you have the same magic inside of yourself as other people have that are manifesting whatever they want in their life.
That's right.
But it's also believing in the powers of the universe as well. It's understanding that when you believe that you're supported and you're guided and you're not alone, it allows you to not have to work so hard and try to do it all with your bare hands. And to know that this is a co-creation process. So we want to believe in a higher power, whatever
Power.
that looks like for you. But then it's also to believe in manifestation itself, right? And so
Mhm.
if you don't believe that you can think something into existence, you'll never think it into existence. I believe
100%.
that my thoughts are so powerful. They are energy. They are literally molding the formless substance all around me. So what I think about comes about. And my belief in that is what actually creates that. And
Mhm.
then, we can also say that the word belief can be a little bit limiting because when I say I believe I parked my car at the mall, there's a little bit of like, I believe I did. But when I say I parked my car at the mall, there's a
Mhm.
certainty. So,
Yes.
what I really teach people, I have a ladder of belief that I teach you. What you would have learned in the Millionaire Program. I
Mhm.
teach people the ladder of belief, going from needing something to wanting something to believing in that something to then knowing that that something is there, done, and complete. And when you move
Mhm.
into the knowing, into the certainty of a thing, that's when it becomes observable.
Right. But you have to be crystal clear in what it is that you want, right? Because if you're all over the place, I want
Mhm.
this, I want that. It's just like even entrepreneurship, right? I know you've experienced that too, is where you start your business and then the minute you're out there in the universe in social media, you have all these, distractions coming at you. Oh, I can help you do this. Oh, I can help you do that. I can help you do this. And you're like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like you're in your own island and then you're like, okay, that sounds good, that sounds good, that sounds good. And I try to teach some of my clients that are in my coaching program. It's like, don't focus on those distractions. How can you not focus as an entrepreneur? How could you not focus on all those distractions and only focus on the simple thing first? They always say, look at look create a list, and on that list, what is one thing that sticks out to you that you resonate with, and focus on just that one thing and master it. Then once you master it,
Mm.
then you go on to the next thing. But how do you control yourself for all of our entrepreneur listeners out there? to not pay attention to all these business distractions coming your way. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah, what's so interesting for me is we have to understand that personal creation is a process, and part of that process is to understand exactly what it is you're creating. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like starting to build a house without actually having the plans of the house that you're going to build in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
what are you putting together? Like, what are we actually building? We're just going willy-nilly here. Like, it makes no sense. So what we
Right.
need to do is we have to make sure that we have the plans, and that doesn't mean the step by step of what do we do after what. It's the outcome, the end result of what we desire. So what is the business that I want to have? How do I want to serve people, and in what way? What is the financial ramifications of that? And then how do I want to feel along the journey? Like, when I have this end
Mm-hmm.
result, who am I? And
Right.
what is the identity that I hold? So once we have that vision or that end result mapped out, then you have the
Mm-hmm.
clarity to then guide every step that you take along the path. And then you know what resonates with you and what doesn't. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you start to actually move in the assumption of that final outcome, that plan that you've created, you don't get distracted. So you can imagine, Nancy, like how many people come to me with business opportunities, with proposals, with investment opportunities. People want me to do this and that and the other thing. And because I'm so clear on my call to good, what I'm here for, what I'm meant to do, I'm not distracted by all of that. I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I'm set to do and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And so I stay super clear and super focused, and I'm not distracted. But when you
Mm-hmm.
aren't clear on what it is you're creating, you might get distracted by things that come up that aren't in alignment with this because
So true.
you haven't
So
created it.
true. Well said. Well said. I
Mm.
love it. All right, beautiful. You teach the abundance. You teach that abundance isn't about working harder. Why is it so hard for people to believe that?
Well, because it's a habit and it's something that we've been taught, right? So
Right.
yeah, we have been taught in many, many ways. And I had this exact same thing that the more you work, the more you make. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
things like traditional business structures where you're paid hourly, the more hours you work, you get paid more. And then you might even get paid overtime or double time. If you work on a vacation or a holiday, you make more
Right.
money. And so we really learned that the more energy I put out, the more comes back. But
Mm-hmm.
that energy that we put out, though, we learned that it was through our physical labor, through our hands, not through energetic calibration, not through operating on a new frequency. It's the
Mm-hmm.
physical, mechanical, and masculine movement of that thing. And so this is why we have many men and women who will work 16, 17 hours a day nonstop,
Mm-hmm.
and they become so used to it that it starts to actually feel good. It feels productive. The more
Mm-hmm.
hours you put into your business, the more, the more you sleep at night knowing that you did what you were supposed to do. But
Right.
there's this thing that happens where you do that and you want
Burnout.
more and more and more, and you don't make any
It,
more, and
it,
you're like, what is happening? And then you run out of hours in a day, and there's nothing else that you can do, and you're just absolutely exhausted. And so to surrender to that idea is to ask the question, is there another way? And is
mm-hmm.
there another way for me to bring more abundance into my life without expressing more energy or more time, without being super tired, without being super stressed, without being overwhelmed, and without being burnt out? And so that's what I started asking that question in 2019. And I started to see people that were like working less hours than me and making more money than me. And I'm like, okay, but that goes against what I believe. Because what I
Mm-hmm.
believe is the harder you work, the more hours you put in, the more that you make. So is it that Jeff Bezos is just working harder than me? Is it that
Right.
he's putting in more hours? Does he have more hours in a day than me? No.
Mm-hmm.
So how is
Nope.
this possible? And so allowing yourself to open up to the idea that there is another way, and
Mm-hmm.
that other way has a lot more to do with your belief systems, with your identity, with the let and the surrender, with the feminine energetics. And when I mean that, I mean like the spiritual side of things, the reprogramming of the subconscious mind, the belief in new ideas. And so that question of, is there another way? And am I open to experience that other way, has led to so many quantum leaps, because
Mm-hmm.
now you're like, well, wait a minute. I don't have to work harder. I can actually be more efficient and work smarter by doing things in a certain way instead of doing certain things. So it's not about the strategy, it's about the consciousness attached to the strategy. And so,
And
we keep
doing the
proving this
things
over
that
and over again.
and doing the things that you love to do, because you can be working all these crazy hours and not like what you do. And then your glass is not filled up, right? It's pretty
Oh,
much
yeah, yeah.
empty because you're exhausted and such. And that is, you made a good point, is that is how we were brought up. Like I was brought up as you go to school, you go to college, you marry a certain person, and you are going to, don't get into any arguments, or just kind of, mum's the word, but just work hard and stay
Yeah.
focused, and then that was it. But they don't tell you, like, I had to teach myself a lot of things, and it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. That was just the way our parents were brought up, is different on how we are bringing up our children this, in this era. And you end up learning over the time and coaching. I've learned so much by doing what? It's the self-development, reading books. I remember driving to work for an hour and a half, and listening to the CDs over and over and over. I was listening
Oh,
to
yeah.
The Secret, Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, like all of the Tony Robbins and all these things. But you listen to all that, and some of it you're going to resonate with, and some of it you're not. And then you create your own world, right? For yourself.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why people stay stuck, Kathleen. What are the most common subconscious blocks that you think people experience?
Yeah. Um, so for me, I don't love the word block. I actually don't even
Hmm.
think I ever say that.
No.
Because I believe that the words that we use and the language that we use, they further create from it. So if I believe I have a block, then I'm creating a block even by thinking that I have a block. So
Yep.
I do prefer to use the word resistance or out of alignment or misalignment, because those feel lighter, they don't feel so heavy, and they don't feel like I'm creating any sort of blockage. But so why do we resist the life that we desire and
Hmm.
stay or remain in the life that we have? To me, that's the question. So it's natural, it's easy, it's comfortable to stay who we are and who we've always been, and to keep the habits the same. And so there's
Hmm.
this thing like routine. We get into these routines and then we just keep doing them, and they become automatic, and we aren't even really aware of them. We don't even notice that we do them. And self-awareness is huge, right? Like, how many times have you said something about somebody in your life and you know that if you were to say that to them, they wouldn't believe you? They wouldn't think
Hmm.
themselves that way because they
Right.
lack the self-awareness. So the most negative people that we have in our lives, if you were to tell them they're really negative, they'd be like, "What? Me? No." Like,
What do you mean? I'm
yeah,
not
they
like that.
yeah, yeah, they because of the self-awareness piece. So, what's so important then is to become self-aware and to understand, why do I do the things that I do? Do I do them on purpose and intentionally guiding me towards the next iteration of my life? Or am I doing them simply because they're habitual? Am I doing them simply because that's the way that they've always been done? And there's no real rhyme or reason to it. And so once you
Mhm.
ask those questions and you have the realization, that's how you can change it. Because if you don't understand it, you'll never change it. I always use this example. Somebody told me this one time about this family. They made this Christmas ham every single year, and a great grandmother made it, then a grandmother made it, and then the mother made it, and then the daughter was making it. And so it was like four generations. And the daughter asked the question, okay, so we take the ham, we have to cut off the ends, we have to put the glaze on, you cook it, take it off halfway through, switch the glaze. And so the granddaughter was her first time making this family ham, and she goes, well, why do we cut the ends off the ham? Like, why do we do that? And
Mm-hmm.
her mother was like, I don't really know. Let's ask your grandmother. And so they asked the grandmother, and the grandmother was like, I'm not really sure why we do that. And so they asked the great grandmother, the fourth generation. And she was like 98 years old. And she goes, oh, the ham wouldn't fit in the pan I was using. So I cut the ends off. And so it's just an example
That's
of
funny.
like, so
Mm-hmm.
now that granddaughter's like, well, I don't need to cut the ends off because there's no reason to. And so
Right.
this is how we can release ourselves from these beliefs, from these habits, from these ways of being, because we understand that, oh my gosh, I never needed to do it that way. I
Mm-hmm.
can do
Mm-hmm.
it this way. And so that's the key to reprogramming the
Great
subconscious
story.
mind,
Yes.
is that
Mm-hmm.
self-awareness and that understanding. And once you become aware, the resistance goes, because now you
Mm-hmm.
can change your behavior.
Mm-hmm. It's the challenge is for most people is how am I going to do that? Right? It
Yeah.
seems so simple, but how am I going to do that?
So
Yes.
this is such a beautiful example. So for me, my entire life, I was a plus size girl. I never enjoyed physical activity. I didn't like a lot of foods, and then the foods that I did like were sugary, or I don't know, like carby, like just the
Mm-hmm.
foods that I learned to love as a child and into my adulthood, were what we would say are unhealthy foods. And so the pattern in the program that I had, the automatic habits that I had in my life, were to go to these foods and to not go to the gym. And so that was easy.
Mm-hmm.
That was effortless for me. So then the opposite, or the dual side of that, would be eating nutritious and healthy food and moving my
And going to
body every
gym.
day. So
Mm-hmm.
what did I do for 30 years, Nancy? I kept going on diets, monitor my food, write it down, uh, track my calories, track my macros, join this program, join that program, force myself to go to the gym when I hate it. And so all of that felt so hard. All of
Mm-hmm.
that was like a temporary change in my behavior. And then as soon as I would lose 30 pounds, 40 pounds, what would I
You
do?
go right
I'd go
back.
back to eating the same food. I'd go back to not going to the gym because I hated it. So I had this
Mm-hmm.
realization in 2019, like, oh my gosh, I'm simply behaving naturally according to the beliefs that I hold. I believe that I hate exercise, and I believe that I'm a picky eater who doesn't like healthy food. Those two beliefs right there were in resistance to the idea that I desire. So in
Mm-hmm.
2022, when I asked myself, okay, like, I want to be healthy, I want to live a long life, I want to take care of this body. What do I need to do that? Force myself using motivation and accountability to do those behaviors? No.
Mm-hmm.
What I need to do is change the underlying beliefs. So I convinced myself that I love working out, and I convinced myself that I love healthy and nutritious food. So I changed the subconscious patterning and programming. I changed the belief systems that are in my mind through self
Mm-hmm.
suggestion, through auto suggestion, through practicing being, visualization, all the things that I teach. And so now I'm a woman who loves to move her body, and I'm a woman that loves to eat nutritious and healthy food. So
Mm-hmm.
now, no matter what happens, I'm not going to join a 12-week program and then go back to old behaviors, because they're not true anymore. They're not real.
That's
So
right. I
this is
love it.
how we shift it.
And you share to with my listeners, how much weight did you lose? Because you lost a
I
lot.
haven't lost any weight, because when we lose something, the mind tries to find it, but I have released. When we
Love
release
it.
something, yeah, when we release something, the mind doesn't try to find it. So I've released, I think probably 135, maybe 140 pounds from my body now through reprogramming my subconscious mind. And then, of course, behaviors have changed. I work out consistently.
Mm-hmm.
I fuel myself with nutritious food consistently. I still enjoy sweets. I still enjoy some of the things that I liked before, but they aren't the only things I like. Right.
Right.
And
Right.
I take rest days and all that kind of stuff. I get a good night's sleep. I drink lots of water. But I stopped drinking alcohol, things like that. I've just become this version of myself who loves looking after her vessel because I love it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it shows it. I love it. All right. We have about 10 more minutes. I want to get to some embodiment and alignment, girly.
Oh,
This one's
yes.
always been a tough one. When you talk about embodiment, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. Can be a little bit of a harder concept for people to fully grasp. Now,
Right.
conceptually, they can grasp it. But I don't want you to grasp the concept. I want you to grasp the feeling of embodiment. And that's essentially what embodiment is. So most people read books, they listen to books, they highlight books, they
Mm-hmm.
study books, they understand concepts and ideas, and are often able to regurgitate it. That's how we have been taught to learn. I think about school.
Mm-hmm.
Memorize this, know this, but nobody ever teaches you the feeling of being it, and that is embodiment. So when I read a
Mm-hmm.
book on universal law, and universal law says, okay, the law of cause and effect says that your consciousness is the cause of your reality. You think things into existence literally. What you believe to be true about yourself is the way you will naturally behave in life. So I can go, oh, I love that. I agree with that. Yeah. I can see how I manifested my life the way that it is today. I can see how I'm the cause and effect of my life. Yep. Okay, good. And then keep living your life the same way you've lived your life the entire time. You did not
Mm-hmm.
embody that idea. To
Right.
embody that idea is then to say, okay, if this is really true, and if I really believe it's true, then what would I do different? So I would
Mm-hmm.
think different thoughts. I wouldn't talk negative about myself anymore. I wouldn't think negative thoughts about other people and about humanity in my mind anymore, understanding that that creates more negativity. I wouldn't I would take that risk. I would be more bold. I would understand that the way I feel about me every day matters the most out in this world. And so true embodiment is to feel the truth of the idea and to live from it. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know manifestation. I am the manifestation,
Ooh, I
right?
love it. I
And
love it.
that's the
So
difference between
powerful.
concept and being.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. And people struggle with that alignment. Like you could teach it and they can't grasp the concept of it. And they tell themselves, oh my gosh, this is so different. I can't do that. How am I going to do that? I don't believe in that. And if you don't, then that's what you create, right? You're going to
Yeah.
continue to struggle. How is embodiment different from thinking positive?
Yeah. Positive thinking is an important
Mm-hmm.
part of embodiment. So we do want to take our thought processes, become aware of them, and ask, where could they be elevated? Where could I think in a more positive light? But mood doesn't manifest. So it's not just about positive thinking. If it's just about
Mm-hmm.
positive thinking alone, then everyone in the world that has positive thoughts would be living a positive life and no bad would
Right.
ever happen. And they'd
Mm-hmm.
have lots of money. Everybody would have
That's for
lots of money,
sure.
right? But we know that that's not the truth. So positive thinking is a beautiful starting point to the realization of embodiment, but true embodiment is actually saying, what is the experience that I want to live in my life, and how can I align with that experience today? So
Mhm.
gratitude is such a powerful, powerful
Mhm.
example, because if you want to manifest your dream life, what are you going to be when you have it? Grateful.
Mhm.
So you can't be
Mhm.
sitting here in displeasure of the life that you have today, because you are not an embodiment of the gratitude idea that you would be an embodiment of when you have the thing that you desire. So you can't be
Mhm.
displeased with your life. That's why I say grateful with my life I have today, never satisfied, grateful, right? And wanting for more is an energy that helps you to embody that end result. But if you're lacking in your life right now, displeased with it in some way, and looking at it in any form of magnitude of it's not what I want and I don't like it, you're in resistance to it. So fall in
Right.
love with life today, see the beauty in life today, and then move in the assumption that you are that which you seek to be. And identity
Mhm.
work is the crux of all of this, Nancy. You know this. In order
Yeah.
for you to manifest a greater experience in your life, you have to manifest a greater identity, which means you have
Mhm.
to remove the limitations in your consciousness that say,
Mhm.
you're not good enough, you're
Mhm.
not beautiful enough, you don't know enough, you haven't had enough experience yet, you don't have enough money, this person can do it better. So
Mhm.
need, feeling that you're inferior, feeling that you're limited in some way, feeling like you're flawed or broken, those are all parts of humanity that are the heaviness that keep us from the embodiment of that which we seek to be.
you nailed all of the above, because that, and even the fear, the worry, and the anxiety, it will continue to keep you stuck. All right, love. A couple of other questions. How can someone start shifting identity without quitting?
Mm,
Sometimes it's something that's new that we start. And I experience this with my clients. Like sometimes they start it and then they'll quit, and then they fall off track, and you got to get them back on track, not consistently like throughout the whole program, but it's like starting. Like, I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. Oh, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to do this, blah 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 blah. First 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, maybe 3, you fall off track, and then those same resolutions are falling to the next year.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
people start something new and then they quit. Why is that?
So if we understand we were just talking about the patterns in the programs
Right.
and the natural ways of being. And so sometimes what happens is that natural way of being might be to start something and stop something. So that might
Mm-hmm.
just be habitual for them. They might,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of their life, be one of those people that starts and stops. It's similar to procrastination, right? It's a
Yes.
habit. There's You weren't born a procrastinator. You learned how to be a procrastinator over the course of your life. And it's the same thing with the
Right.
start stop. So it's kind of like the knowing doing gap. I know I should do this, but I don't want to do this, so I don't do this. So it's
Mm-hmm.
recognizing the awareness in the pattern. And then when you feel like stopping, you have the awareness and you go, oh, there's that habit again. There's that way of being that just is natural to me, but I'm not like that anymore. And so that's where you have to move past it. In the moment that you want to quit, you don't quit. That's how you change the subconscious patterning and programming. But there's also this thing called upper limiting behavior when you hit an edge.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start to grow and you start to ascend and you start to become an elevated version of yourself, you're going to hit a moment where you're at an edge and you're about to allow yourself to go past that ledge. You're about to jump off that cliff. Like you are
Mm-hmm.
about to permanently become that elevated version of you. And there's a moment where you hesitate and you think to
Mm-hmm.
yourself, oof, man. And so this is where we self-sabotage so many times. And we
What's the
will,
easiest thing to do?
yeah,
I'll just quit.
yeah. And so it's just a return to comfort and safety. And so in those
Mm-hmm.
moments, you have to be aware of it and say, no, I'm actually going to go past this edge. I'm going to move past this upper limit and I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing. And I've been willing to do that over the past 6 years. And every time I do it, it always reaps so many rewards and benefits for me. So in the moment
Mm-hmm.
where things feel the hardest, those are the moments that you move to faith more and you have to give yourself another chance because you're not quitting on that thing, you're quitting on yourself.
That's
And
right.
so
That's right.
I've put into my identity that I am someone that always persists, that always moves forward, eternal forward motion. Even when things feel the hardest, I'm going to keep moving forward, and I will never stop. And so that's a beautiful thing you can put into your identity. So it's not a habit for me to stop anymore. It's a habit to keep going.
That's right. And you do. What do you want our listeners to remember most today from our conversation before we end?
Uh, I think, just to sum up what we talked a lot about today is like the life that you're living right now, it is the way that it is because of the habitual and automatic ways that you've chosen to live. And so if you can reflect on and notice one habit that you know
Mm-hmm.
is counterintuitive to the life that you want to live and change that one thing, you'll change your entire experience. But
Yes. So
the embodiment
powerful.
is actually changing it. So it's not writing it down on a piece of paper. It's the moment that you notice the habit come back, you say no, not today. And you
Mm-hmm.
do the opposite of what the natural thing feels like to do for you until that new thing becomes natural. And trust me, it will very quickly.
Mm-hmm. As long as you're
Yeah.
consistent with it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right?
here's the thing. I believe that we can change a belief in an instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that that girl
Mm-hmm.
ever cut the ends off the ham ever again? No,
No.
because she's like, why bother? So I think for all of us, we can in a moment just be like, wow, I never have to do that again if I don't want to. And what would
Mm-hmm.
that look like if I never did? And it can be that easy if we let it.
Right. And I was just going to say, because people are, oh my gosh, this is so much work. Do I have to do this every single day? And da, da, da. No,
Yeah.
it's what you believe. If you think it's busy work and it's a lot and this is what you have to do, you don't have time, you make up excuses, then you're going to
Yeah.
continue to live the life that you want. I always say, in my podcast and with my clients is you have full control of the will. No one
Oh yeah.
else is going to come and, save you, but you have full control over it. And that's where
Yeah.
you have to start moving, because the minute, and do it simple. You don't have to do it so heavily and like, oh, I have all these things I need to do. Just start with one thing, like you said.
Yeah. It's
So,
beautiful. Just one little thing. And then every day notice one another habit and another one. And eventually you're operating and functioning from such a peaceful place. And then your life will start to change. It's pretty magical.
right. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much for, being a guest on my podcast. It's
My
been a
pleasure.
pleasure. Been following you for such a long time, and I know there's going to be much more ahead where we're going to work together. And where can my listeners find you?
I think the best place where most people are finding me is on the YouTube channel. So we have the
Mhm.
YouTube channel Kathleen Cameron Manifest. We have the podcast on there, the Manifested Podcast. We just
Mhm.
hit 100,000 subscribers on the channel. So we have people that are
Congratulations.
resonating, and I'm loving it because my dreams come true when everybody else's dreams come true.
Mhm.
That's what I want to celebrate, is everybody else winning makes me win. So I love it.
So beautiful. Thank you, love.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.